Self out. Hello, what's up? How you guys doing? What's the day today? I'm losing track of time. It's Wednesday. Okay, let me come clean real quick. Your boy has been playing Pokemon. That's right. It's true. Pokemon Scarlet. Whoever is not playing Pokemon Scarlet should really reevaluate their life choices, because Pokemon Scarlet, it should be the only version anybody is playing. It's the superior version, of course it is. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, that's also fine, because today we're not going to be talking about Pokemon. We're going to be talking about Genshin. And if you've been keeping up to my content, all right, so if you've been picking up you've been keeping up with my content, earlier today I released a video talking about Genshin character exclusivity, and whether or not it's an issue. I guess in the video I only had time to cover the phenomenon and talk about it from a neutral perspective, like I always do, right? It's not too hard for most people to understand that Genshin exclusivity is basically pertaining to the phenomenon that more and more characters coming out in Genshin have become very niche and difficult to pair with a lot of units. For the most part, they exist in one team and one team only. You take them out of that specific team, either they feel extremely awkward to play or downright non-functional in some cases. Now, of course, there are copium in people saying, well, I can play Goro in a cryo team. It doesn't make him any less cool to me, right? Goro in a cryo team doesn't make him any less of a hero in my heart. Or, right, you can pair Shenhe with Ito. It's like, I ship them, they're amazing together, and I love playing Shenhe with Ito. Nothing wrong with that, all right? But we're just talking about synergies. If you're trying to bring out the best in their kits and trying to get them to really synergize and pair well with other characters, it leaves much to be desired, right? It leaves much to be desired in the newer 4-star characters. Oftentimes, it's the same thing with content creators. You'll see content creators raving about them, talking about them, building them, showcasing them, and doing crazy things like the C6 R5 whales for content creators would take Layla and make her hit like 30,000, 40,000 cryo per hit and be like, she's cracked, she's amazing, and then a couple weeks later you never see them talking about her ever ever again. You'll never see her on any teams. You'll never see her in any showcases, even though they claim she was amazing and did good damage, but you just won't see her. So it also comes back to the thing where it's like, well, if all of these 4-stars can be amazing in these hyper invested whale teams, how come they never come back? Right? Like, how come these characters never come back in these these contents? Because are they not strong, or are they not fun? Right? I think there's a lot to be said when it comes to these 4-star character designs. Just, are they fun to play? I think the most recent glow up 4-star character that we can talk about actually right this very moment is what's her name? Kuki Shinobu. Right? Kuki Shinobu is a character that went through a lot of scrutiny when she first came out. A lot of people were memeing on the fact that you needed to bring a healer just for your healer, right? Kuki, when she first, but now as time went on, she has found herself a little more useful in certain electro-centric teams, electro-dendro teams, right? And I find that her role, though, is going to be quickly overshadowed eventually if, you know, a decent dendro healer comes to the surface. It's so hard to say what HoYoverse's end goal is with these characters. What I want to believe is that they want to create small ecosystems with these niche characters, which they can then build around. So think Shenhe, think Goro, think what's her name, the electro woman who has the hots for Raiden Shogun, who follows her around, the girl, the Tengu wings, the one with the fan, the one who beat up Ito, Sara, Kuto Sara, there it is. Tip of my tongue. Same thing with Kuto Sara, laying the groundwork with these amazing supports, and going forward, I'd imagine all other elements will eventually get their dedicated support. Right? I'm thinking right now Pyro still needs their hype. I guess you can say Bennett, right? Bennett would be, but Bennett is not as crazy when it comes to buffing Pyro as I mean, yeah, if you can C6 him, he does give a little bit of extra boost, but you know, he's a far cry from what Kujosara and Goro and Shenhe can do for their respective elements. But I guess you could say Pyro is kind of covered for with Bennett. Then we still need a Nemo, we need Dendro, and that's it, right? And Hydro. And we need Hydro. So I imagine these characters will eventually come to fill out the rest of these slots. It's without a doubt. Like I can say without a shadow of a doubt that eventually all mono teams will be somewhat meta. It will be somewhat viable, and laying the groundwork for all these mono teams is going to be these really awkward 4-stars right now. For example, Kuki Shinobu, Dori. I'd imagine if a mono electro team were to exist, which it does right now, but expand upon it even further, they would slot into those teams quite well, right? Now, yes, some mono electro teams prefer Bennett. Right now, Raiden Hyper Carry, Bennett is a better option than any of these electro characters because Bennett is a universal buffer. But let's say in the future, an electro character that comes out that scales with defense or some weird crap like that where Bennett cannot slot into, maybe, and then they have extremely high energy cost for their burst, maybe slotting in more electro characters even into the healer position is going to be viable, because Kazuha is always going to be in that 4th slot. It's just at this point, I don't know if any character that will ever come out, or any mechanics or synergies that will come out in the future, which could overshadow the strength of what Viridescence. I think Viridescence is likely going to stay in the game for like ever. And especially in mono teams, you can at most bring 3 characters, because the 4th one is almost always going to be Kazuha. Tech devices Walrus only non-amplifying reaction needs niche supports like Geo, Anemo, Electro, not Cryo, Pyro, Hydro already too strong. Well, that's if you go off on the consensus of saying like, well, they are, those three elements are built for reaction comps, right? If you say, well, they already have powerful reactions, they don't need self-dedicated supports to buff their teams. But like, let me tell you, Techie, there will come a day where Hoyoverse runs out of options. They will run out of options. Like I said in the video today, it's not it's not an infinite amount of things they can just pull out of their asses to continue making variable units that does unique and engaging things. Remember, it's not enough to just be unique and different. It also has to be like not meta, but like it has to be fun, engaging, and worthwhile to explore these new options, right? There will come a day where these things get exhausted, and you know what's a great thing they can fall back on? Mono teams. Mono teams can grow much. Like, developing mono teams could mean like multiple different ways to play the same element, right? Think of Pyro. There can be burst Pyro, like burst damage Pyro. One instance, huge damage. There could be a smoldering Pyro, like low damage per hit, but applied over time. For example, a Pyro Catalyst user, right? That applies AoE damage over time, and a buffer that can buff that up even more. And then there could be like fast attacking, like a spear Pyro user that hits moderately hard, but not like, you get what I'm saying. There can be multiple ways to design a Pyro carry, and having different supports that facilitates different playstyles, you can branch off into a lot more different options than Vaporize. Right, because what like, I'm sure you guys all know what the biggest problem right now is with these powerful reaction comps. What's the single limiting factor that kills all of these comps for people on arrival? It's ICD. Right? So with ICD, it doesn't matter how fast the character hits. It doesn't matter like how they play. You know for a fact that it's always going to be fixed with that specific timer that you can never bypass. So like, what's the point of continually fleshing out more vaporized comps, more melt comps? It doesn't matter, because it's all gonna get clogged by the ICD. That's the problem with reaction comps. Like, it's not that we're not excited or people can't get excited for it, it's that it's already dead. Like, the formula's over. It's out. It's like, what more can they do with these comps? They're so scared. Like, think about it, people. Look how scared Hoyoverse is to even release any melt comps. Like, the melt comps that exist right now are mostly figured out by the community or kind of forced into melt comps. Like melt Ganyu with Nahida. Do you think Hoyoverse sat there was like, oh, let's make Nahida synergize with Ganyu melt teams? No, they weren't even thinking about that. It's just the players forced it to happen. If you think about most melt comps, were all like figured out by the player base. There is not a single character that was released that leaned into it. That's how scared Hoyoverse is to develop this meta. They don't want to. And as they see people already figured some out, they have even less incentive to push towards it. And it's for that simple reason of it being too strong. The reaction is just too strong. And they have, and it's already been fleshed out in existing team comps, so it's even harder to design something that's unique and special. So Hoyoverse is now going towards a direction where, okay, we're gonna make all these really, really niche characters that are specialized, that are unique, and to them, I would assume, interesting to play and build and experiment with. But we're not going to go towards the meta, right? When was the last time you saw like a character that power creeps something that Kazuha does? You won't, because Kazuha is already peaked. They've already peaked. And there's very little they can do to the Viridescence meta In fact, they've with one character, they've done so much with just one character that they're constantly trying to shift away from it. Look at like how in the last couple of patches, the characters they released, like they've been just trying to usher us away from Viridescence. Like, stop using Viridescence. Try out the new Dendro stuff, right? Like, why are you guys still using Viridescence? We're gonna try to make it damn hard for, and then they come up with Nilou, be like, well, if you want to play this character, you can only have Hydro and Dendro. There you go. Right? There you go. You guys want to use your Viridescence? Well, why don't we just slap this in your faces? Try using your Viridescence. Now, where's your Viridescence god now? Right? That's how bad they are trying to push away from the whole traditional stuff. So then I go back to this question, right? With the current state of Genshin, is exclusivity a good or a bad thing? Right? So exclusivity, and the techie is basically tacking on new questions like niche units are better than mediocre units like the Sumeru 4 stars. Now, exclusivity doesn't mean mediocre, nor does it mean good, like, I guess you can say niche. Yeah, like are niche units good or bad for the game state? And now, if you've watched my video earlier today, I talked about the issues that Hoyoverse do face when they want to make more universal units, which we can talk about that as well. Serene Solitude says, I thought it was good how they were adding more niche units, but that's just me. Yeah, okay. So there are people who actually enjoy the niche units, and I think there's also something to be said about the fact that niche units doesn't warrant people to have FOMO for them. Right? If a character is really niche, that means it likely leans towards a certain demographic of players. That's not the majority, which then ends up being that people don't have the urge to pull for them. If every 4-star that comes out is as good as Bennett or Xingqiu, then you have this urgency to pull for all of them, especially if they're also needing to be Yahtzee 2 to be very high functioning or very efficient. Then it puts a lot of strain and pressure on your primo gems. Tech the Virus as well as I like niche units, but not if their kit and constellation locked to function properly, e.g. Sarah C2. But the thing is, then how, you see, it's hard to say because back in the day, we saw what like I keep going back to Bennett and Xingqiu, but these are great units to evaluate how 4-stars have changed. Looking at, I mean, Xingqiu was functional as C0, but you wouldn't say he was like very efficient. But the thing you were lacking was hydro application and maybe a bit of damage. Whereas characters 4-stars nowadays that come out are missing key functioning pieces of their kits behind constellations. I'm always okay to lose a bit of damage, maybe a bit of utility, but it's still there. It's still in the kit. It's just, you know, I could get a little more if I get constellations, but I guess people really don't like it when characters come out and they feel like you need to pay for DLC, which is the constellations, to complete the characters, right? That's where I think a lot of people get ticked off. They don't like it. They're like, you know, I pulled for this character, I got one copy, and I was hoping for like a completed character, maybe just lacking a little bit of damage, utility, maybe even application, but not entire features. Which I can see it. I understand. Hadrian says, which video are you going to react to? I win to lose video. I'm going to be reacting to Vars 2. There was somebody who emailed that video link to me. Was it email or Discord? They did it like a week ago, and I haven't had the time to do it. So not a week ago. No, it was a couple days ago. It was a video about Genshin exclusivity. It was like very recent. Last week it was another video. If they are niche, they better be the best option for said niche. For example, Diona and the new 4-star, or Cookie and Dory. Like, to me, Dory is a direct downgrade to Cookie. Yeah, I feel you. Does it? Here's another question to you. Does it feel like some 4-stars were designed on purposely to be weaker, but they exist in the game just to like fulfill a quota, a marketing quota? Maybe eventually Dory plushies are going to be super popular. You never know. These are IPs that are set up by HoYoverse. Do characters solely exist within the game to be good and functional, or can they simply have adorable personalities or likable personalities and traits to the point where people resonate with these characters enough to buy IRL merch for these characters? Because remember, Genshin extends far beyond just the in-game stuff. And with a lot of my videos, I've talked about how desperate HoYoverse has been to try to reach an IRL audience, like a bigger IRL audience, through like the randomest of IRL events. Body pillows, maybe not for maybe not for Dory, or at least we can't be saying that on stream. But yeah, like there are definitely going to be characters like that are more popular merch wise. I think Dory makes a great mascot, but she's not the best when it comes to in-game performance. But you don't have to be an amazing character in-game to be a great mascot. Case in point being Paimon. Paimon is like a huge mascot for Genshin, but she's not even playable in-game. That speaks volumes. I think designing likable characters that are fun, like who has fun personalities, is a great way to market them in the real world as well. Glitch Variable is saying, I think Dory is not weaker, but like you said with Pyro, is a different spin on an electro healer. Dory and Shinobu are different types of healers. Dory would be better if you fight enemy corrosion. Yeah, like that's true, because if you are fighting against corrosion with Cookie, you're in for a very bad time. But at the same time, saying Dory is designed for corrosion, I don't know. I have yet to see a scenario, like, because with corrosion, I feel like any healer would be a better option than Dory, unless you're dead set on playing an Electro team and you need that second Electro. But then even then, you could just run a Hydro healer and an Electro support, no? Right? If you're fighting against corrosion, why not just run Kokomi and then Fischl in the support position? So it's not like there's no workarounds and Dory suddenly comes to you descending from the heavens, shining light with halo above her head, being like, pick me, choose me, I can make your hell heaven, I can make this pain stop. Right? And you never have a scenario where Dory just descends upon you and you're like, yes, Dory, that's the answer to this headache that I'm having right now. There's not one scenario like that. There are plenty of characters in this game where you feel like whenever they're there on your team, you feel like, oh my goodness, I thank the Lord, thank the heavens, I have this character because it saves me so much trouble. Right? One of such character is Zhongli. Another one of these characters is Kazuha, Bennett, Yelan, Xingqiu, right? Raiden in some people's cases. I don't mean to question HoYoverse and their design, because they've proven to the player base over and over again that with certain update changes, a new character, a new artifact set, or some sort of new enemies, or a new synergy, right, a new element, can completely turn things around. Same thing with like slight changes to resonance, stuff like that could take a character and just flip it upside down. But for the vast majority, if not all of them, they've been for 5-star characters. Okay, 4-star characters have never had 4-star characters have not had the privilege to warrant Hoyoverse to make any changes and adjustments for the game for them. So when a 4-star character underperforms, think Xinyan. Toma is one of the rare ones that actually had his whole thing turned around. Toma nowadays, a lot of people are saying he's finding a more concrete position in his burning teams, right? Burning Bersian teams, and hopefully once more burning Bersian centric 5-star characters come out, Toma would see more usage. So it's not like Hoyoverse will completely abandon a certain character, but then again, how many people in chat here thinks that Hoyoverse designed burning and Bersian around Toma? Do you guys honestly believe that? Right. So nobody believes that. That means Toma just happened to be a benefactor out of sheer luck. Right? Then we can all agree on that. It's just sheer luck that Toma happened to work in burning Bersian teams. Brian Eakin is asking, hey Walrus, what's your thought on another character collab, and what character would it be, like Kratos, etc.? I mean, from what I see, Hoyoverse does not like to collab with other anime esque IPs. So forget about like Dragon Ball, forget Demon Slayer, forget any of the anime IP, because what that ends up doing is directly comparing Hoyoverse's IPs like Ayaka, Kazuha, all these like anime characters to those other anime characters. Hoyoverse doesn't like that. I've come to notice Hoyoverse really doesn't like involving themselves with any other like character or story based IPs. If you see them IRL collabing, they don't even touch any of those IPs. It's crazy to if you think about it, that Hoyoverse wants to draw as much attention to their own characters and their own design and their own world and fantasy, but and they want to exclude all the other ones, because I think Hoyoverse sees it as a lose-lose for them. Like basically, Hoyoverse sees their brand as something so big and successful that they don't gain anything from including these other characters, as like rather as just giving them free publicity, while Hoyoverse themselves don't gain much from it. Right? So I don't see them ever doing a collab with any of the anime IPs. Now that being said, I can actually see them collabing with like more Western stuff. So think Dark Souls, what's the recent game, God of War? Like somebody was saying Kratos and stuff like that. You know why they would do that though? Why? I'll give you guys the answer. Why Hoyoverse would rather collab with those? It's because the people playing those games likely have limited exposure to Genshin Impact. If you are watching like Haikyuu, if you're watching Mob Psycho, if you're watching My Hero Academia, Boruto, like you know Genshin Impact. You've been exposed to Genshin Impact. Chances are you even play Genshin Impact. But the people who play God of War, the people who play the Soul series, the people who play all these other like games on the Xbox, PlayStation, they likely have less exposure to Genshin Impact. So Genshin would much rather collab with those titles just to get the exposure, because it's like a collab both ways. That game might be like, check out Genshin Impact. If you play Genshin Impact, then we'll give you like an exclusive Kratos weapon skin in our game. Like it's an exchange, right? So then those people are like, Genshin Impact, like what the fuck is Genshin Impact? And then they look at Genshin Impact. Oh, Kratos is in this game. I wonder how Kratos plays in this game. Is he gonna have a different like kit? They download it, they check it out, they get the code. Most of them will just uninstall after that. They go back to their lives. But some of them would stick around, right? Some of them will stick around, and that's what Hoyoverse wants. They want to expand their reach. Exactly, Kai Pop. They want to expand their reach. They want to enter new markets. They want to get on the radar of people who don't know they exist. Because think about it like this. You can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows that product exists, you're not going to be popular, right? It's the same thing. You can make the best content for Genshin Impact. You can make like the most detailed, the best guides for Genshin Impact ever witnessed by humans. But if you upload it to Vimeo, are you going to get big? If you upload your Genshin Impact guides to MySpace or only to your Twitter feed or whatever, are you going to get big? It's like, you have to get the word out. That's what Genshin is so good at. Like, is Genshin the best game ever to exist? No, but they got the word out. So here's what I'm basically saying. A bad product or game can be extremely successful if they have enough publicity. Whereas a good product might not necessarily be well received and popular if they have bad publicity. Not publicity, like if not enough people knows about it. So like when Genshin chooses collaborations, they have to think about what they can gain and what the other party gains. Because think about it like this. The more Genshin collabs and promotes other games, the bigger those games are going to get. And while Genshin, yes, is designed as a passive secondary game, it still takes potential hours away from Genshin, right? Think, like, I'm a great example right now. I don't think I've had a single... No, I have. I've not logged on to Genshin probably for like 2 days max, right? So out of the 2 years I've played, I think I've logged in every single day, with exceptions to maybe 2 to 3 days I didn't log in. But at the same time, since the very beginning I was playing Genshin, I was always playing another game. Almost always I've been playing another game. Whether it was like, oh my god, 2 years ago. Okay, so what was I playing 2 years ago? Like I even remember, like at one point I was playing Pokemon Go. At one point I was playing League of Legends. At one point, I believe I was playing like I was playing with friends on some like StarCraft custom maps, and like I'm talking like day in day out. I was like playing this stuff. And what else did I play? I played a lot, but I just can't remember. I played like other gacha games. I played like Cookie Run Kingdom. I played Valorant, like all, and there's like a couple other stuff in between. I played how can I forget? Just this year, I played what's the one that came out in the beginning? The Korean MMORPG. I played Lost Soul. Right, it's called Lost Ark. I played Lost Ark, and then I played Pokemon Unite. That's another Pokemon title. I played some Pokemon Arceus. I played Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. I played a lot of Pokemon games. And then I played, the other one, the Tower of Fantasy. That's already 10 games, by the way, Tower of Fantasy. And now I'm playing Pokemon Scarlet. Right? That's 11 games over the span of 2 years. I've never once dropped Genshin. Like, really think about that. I've never once out of 2 years dropped Genshin among 11 games, and I've stopped playing those 11 games in between, but I'm still playing Genshin. Just think about that. Think about that for a second. How insane of a phenomenon this is. Because Genshin was designed that way. Those other games, I can't keep playing them. Why? Because they demand too much. It definitely gets too repetitive, and people just can't keep up. You've been doing it day in, day out for like 2-3 months, and it becomes a chore. It becomes a grind. But for some reason, Genshin never asks that of me, never demands that of me. And that's why I think, at least for me, it's so easy and effortless to keep Genshin up in the background, just all throughout the day. It's and the months and the years. And I think it's so smart and actually devious of Hoyoverse to design their game like this. It takes a lot of balls to be able to give your players the luxury of not giving a damn. Really, like, really, Hoyoverse took a huge gamble on not having daily logins, all these like BS forcing you to do this and that. I mean, they have incentives. It's just so minor in most scenarios that you can very easily just say like, well, I don't feel like it. It's not worth my time. And I'm not going to do it. And you're okay. You don't lose out on anything. There's no leaderboards. There's no competition. There's no difficulty spike. There's no power creep. There's no development. Like, there's nothing. But it all adds up to this situation where it's like I can always come back to this game, progress at my own pace, and I never feel left behind. I never feel like I'm screwed over. It's crazy. It's bizarre to think about it like that. Sane Inabon says, I still didn't find the chores in Genshin every day. I feel the same level of excitement and joyful as the first day. Even after 788 days, I still feel excited. That's crazy. That's not normal. How could they have designed a game that created this, like creates this phenomenon? It's BS. Masty uses some dedication. Is that dedication though? Is that dedication? Because I honestly think I put in the least amount of effort to stay up to date with Genshin as I've done for any other game I've ever played, period. I've put in close to no effort to keeping up with Genshin, and somehow I am still relevant. I am still clearing content. I can still experience every aspect of the game, shape, or form. I don't feel like I'm left behind. There's no new BS mechanic. Like, listen, let's just use Tower of Fantasy as an example. I think I stopped playing Tower of Fantasy actively for about a week. And I'm like, I'm gone. I'm irrelevant. Like I'm pretty much irrelevant. Just 1 week and you're like, you're gone from the top. I was pretty competitive. I was doing very well. I was I still am in the best guild on the server, but it's just like, how do you keep up with that? You can't keep up. It demands too much of your time, your resources. That's not just time, right? And like the dailies that you have to do, the tasks that you have to do, and like every couple of patches, they include this stuff that like now you got to go grind this and you got to go grind that and this weekly, this, that, and then if you don't do it, you just fall further and further and further and further and further behind. There's a leaderboard. How can you compete with that? Like, you can't. You have to make that you have to spend 2 to 3 hours on that game every day to stay like at the very top. You need to make sure everything is done. Achievements, new zones come out. You gotta like go get all that done because you get currency to spend. Genshin is a very different experience, and I know Tower of Fantasy went for the opposite of Genshin because they don't want to directly compete with Genshin's strong suit. Genshin's strong suit is its casual approach to the gacha genre, whereas Tower of Fantasy really went the opposite direction. They made it more competitive. There's leaderboards for everything. I swear to God, like that game has a hard on for leaderboards. It's competitive over and over and over again. Like, who's better at this, who's better than that, right? Like, and it breeds that kind of environment where you want to flex and you feel bad if you're like not constantly staying up to date with all this stuff. And it's tiring, man. It's tiring. Not everybody has that kind of time and dedication towards certain games. Like, and it's not like the people are toxic. It's just that it's designed to be a highly competitive environment, and it's in your face everywhere you go. It's just like, oh, like people, like, it's gotten to the point where some people even have certain like CP requirements. CP is like combat points, meaning like your total combat score, right? Like, meaning if you don't have this much combat points, then they don't even want you in their party. That's when it starts getting like, okay, it's getting a little too much. And of course, to stay competitive, you gotta grind in, day in, day out, every day to stay at the top. It's tiring. It's tiring. Most people grind day in, day out at work. When they come home, do they still really want to grind day in, day out? Like, you could have had a terrible day at work, and then you come home and you have 2 hours of dailies waiting for you on a game, which you've been doing for the past year, and you got to do the exact same thing today after having a shitty day at work. And then you don't do it. Right? And then you don't do it, you fall behind with your guildies, you don't do it tomorrow either, and the day after that, and then you get a message from your guild saying, hey, you gotta be more active or else we're gonna have to kick you. It's that kind of vibe. I'm not gonna say it's bad or good, because you guys as players, you play whatever you want, you play however you want. But I'm just highlighting a phenomenon. I'm just highlighting the results it had on me as one of your fellow players, is that I can't keep up. But I've never had an issue with Genshin. I never did. Never had an issue with Genshin. Genshin has never once made me feel that way. In the beginning, I was doing all the events, I was keeping up to date, and then one day, I think like patch 1.3 or 1.4, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do every single event and keep up to date with every single like story, side quest, and all this stuff. And eventually they had character hangouts. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do every single character hangout. I can't be bothered. I don't want to do it. And I've never been punished for it. Ever. I've never once felt like, damn, I should have done that hangout. Oh, damn, I should have done that quest. A lot of people keep telling me, like, oh, Walrus, you should have done Albedo's second quest, because you would have got the Spinabar Spangled Binity whatever sword. It's like his best in slot weapon. I've never, and I can put my hand on my heart and the other one to the skies, I swear I have never once regretted not doing that quest. Never. My Albedo is just as strong, if he functions just as fine. Like, he's great. I've never lacked anything in this game. Even though I've skipped, I'll be honest to you guys, I have, since patch 1.4, I've skipped 90% of all events. 90%. So you can imagine how much I've chosen not to do, and I have never once regret. I still 36 star the Abyss. Listen. I still 36 star the Abyss. It's like, I guarantee you, I will say this, there is no other gacha games that I've played that can let you get away with this much. No way. You skip 90% of the contents that they release. I only do story and certain character quests, and that's pretty much it. I don't even do the BP. Too much work. Can't be bothered. Right? And they let you get away with it. HoYoVerse is like, that's okay. That's cool. Trust gave me a bunch of events as free. Well, that's different. That's different. That's a different thing. Even as a paid player, I can't skip this in Tower of Fantasy. I have not played another game where I can skip this much stuff. Never. And I appreciate it. I don't know how to say this, but I appreciate it. I love the fact that HoYoVerse has made the active decision to say, like, okay, you can skip all this stuff, but actually, there's no but. You can skip all this stuff, period. Like, but there's no buts. And I don't know. I think that must be one of the reasons why Genshin is such a successful game. One of the reasons. I can't chalk it up to the whole reason, but I think I've spoken to a lot of people, and they've said they really appreciate the fact that Genshin is this kind of game. There's very little competition, there's very little difficulty spike development, and characters stay relatively interesting, at least design wise. They visually they still look amazing. Their animations are very for a lack of a better word, bewitching, some of them. And I don't know. And there's something about these characters that keeps you playing the game. Raising them, farming their talents, looking for their ascension materials, testing them out, synergies and stuff like that. And then if you just hit it off with one of the characters, you spark some sort of interest, they become one of your most played characters in your main roster. And every day you log in just to play with that character. It's quite a simple formula that Hoyoverse has perfected. Kazraken says play retention is linked to just what you said, not punished for not doing stuff. Yeah, because think about it like this, right? People are very rebellious. Have you guys noticed this? Okay, here's a phenomenon that I've noticed. Chat, tell me if I'm right or wrong, especially for younger people. And I do think Genshin has a lot of younger players. Okay, so have you ever tried, I don't know how old you guys are, but if you guys have younger siblings, have you ever tried telling them not to do something? And what do? Or you tell them to do something, or you try to force them to do something. What do? They, like, at least for me, they always do the opposite. It's like you tell them, you force them to do this. They don't do it. They don't listen. They'll rebel. They'll do the opposite thing. I remember, here's a real story, okay? My mom told me this. It's a real story. Listen up. So back when I was little, so it's like 1970 something, like maybe like early 1970s, when I was just a little kid. My mom came home with this like vase. Like she loved this vase, and she pre-ordered it, and she said she had like a mason like crafted. Like she said it was very valuable, and she loved it so much, and she waited so long for it, and she finally brought it home, and she placed it like in the living room, saying like, look at this is very valuable. Just whatever you do when you play, be very careful of this vase, okay? Be very careful of this vase. It's very expensive. I waited a long time for this. It's a one of a kind in the world. Okay? Just be careful with it. She placed it there, and I swear to God, she told me this. The second she turned around, I broke it. I just knocked it over. And this was right after she just gave me a whole speech of saying, be careful, don't do this, be very mindful of this. This is very expensive. She told me how valuable it was. She told me how much she loved it. She told me blah, 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 all this stuff. And the second she said she barely took a step away, I broke it. And that speaks volumes for just like, and I don't even remember this. That's how little I was. I don't even remember this. But that speaks volume to how like the human mind works. Like that was impulse. At least I would like to believe that's impulse. Maybe it was curiosity. I don't know. But I believe, especially young adults, people who have not fully matured, when you tell them, or when you suggest, or when you try to manipulate, and they know you're trying to manipulate, like people aren't stupid. Just because they're like, no, they're 14, they're not dumb. Okay, they're just young. But if they can feel that you're manipulating them, or you are trying to edge them towards a certain direction or some sort of conclusion, they will on purposely do the opposite. You have to make it so that this individual comes to the conclusion on their own. And this is how masterful, let me tell you, this is how masterful HoYoverse does it, right? This is how they've set this up. Basically, they present to you this problem. They release a character, or they tease a character that's coming out in 2 weeks. And you, as the player, you have to decide how you want to proceed. Do you like this character? Okay, you like this character. Yes, you do. All right, then what are you going to do about that? You know how much these characters cost. We're not changing the price of these characters. It's going to be a natural 50-50 at 75 to 80 pulls, or you're going to lose the 50-50 and you have to potentially go to 160 plus pulls. How much Primo Gems do you have right now? Oh, unlucky, you have 6,000 Primo Gems. Well, that's not enough. So what are you going to do about it? Oh, by the way, we have XYZ events lined up, each giving you about an X amount of Primo Gems. You can do them. You cannot do them. You can buy Primo Gems. It's up to you. We're not going to force you to do anything. There's no leaderboards. There's no content that needs these characters. We're not going to do any of that, but it's up to you. You see, this is where... This is where they get you. They leave it open-ended. They don't force you to do anything. They don't incentivize. They don't like... The only thing they do is for Spiral Abyss, they tweak it just so ever slightly favored towards the new characters. And only for that patch. God damn. Hey. I'm... It's like, and then you're left sitting there being like, damn, they so they really don't care if I get these characters or not, do they? How come they, especially for people who've played other gacha games, it really rattles the brain. It'll make you sit there and question like everything. So, and then most people ends up with the conclusion, especially if they like the new characters, like, well, I'm gonna grind my ass off for it because that's my decision. I'm the one who's wanting this character. HoYoverse is not forcing me. And you think you're coming to that conclusion of your own accord, and you end up grinding and grinding and grinding to pull for this character, where in fact, you know, this was all part of HoYoverse's plan. Because when you are not given like any direction, then that's when your mind is the easiest to manipulate. When you think you are in control, that's oftentimes when you might really want to double check whether or not you're really in control. This is the scariest part about how Genshin is set up. Tier update with Lin came out. Oh. Is it now? I don't know. Tower of Fantasy just got too demanding. The feeling of FOMO. That's like, fear of missing out is the most dangerous form, and I think in recent games it's the most prevalent form of getting you to spend. Is not using in-game stuff. It's not using stuff that you have, or it's the stuff that you could have. Fear of missing out mobilizes one of the most painful like teachers is regret. They utilize regret because we've all had regret. We've all felt regret, and the amount of despair you have with regret, and because with regret, you live in the past. You're stuck in the past. All day, you're just thinking like, damn, I should have. And once you've suffered enough with regret for like months, imagine regretting something for 6 months, 8 months, right? And you're just sitting there regretting. Like, you can bet that next time that the opportunity comes around, you're not going to mess it up again. You're just going to go on. And in fact, most of the time, you will go even harder. You will go even harder. You will, like, for example, a lot of people skip Kazuha, right? When when he first came out. And how many of those people lived with that decision for like almost a year? Right? It's like you just sit there, see, and the worst part is Genshin is a community. Like, even though you don't have multiplayer, you see all these people online, especially like the content creators, the people who makes guides and stuff, and it's like, and they all squeeze in a line. It's like, oh, the best team you can run, like, oh, if you guys have Kazuha, you can use Kazuha, he's the best in slot for this team. Oh, if not, it's okay, you can use Sucrose. But what those people hear is like, you dumb idiot, why didn't you pull Kazuha when he was available? That's all those people hear. And then they're just sitting there like beating themselves up, like, why didn't I pull Kazuha? And then like the whole time they're using Sucrose for those teams like stand-ins, they're just thinking, I could have had Kazuha, why didn't I pull for Kazuha? And imagine living through that for a whole year, and then Kazuha finally comes back. Do you think you're gonna, like, these people are gonna miss out on the second time? Like, no. That's how devastating of a thing FOMO is to people. That's the thing they utilize. It's so damn destructive. It's so damn destructive. And Nat is saying, got Kazuha, but Sucrose still pretty good, not gonna lie. She's not bad. That's what I'm saying. Like, Sucrose is good. But in those people's mind, they can't, like, all they're thinking about is Kazuha, 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 Kazuha. And they will see, like, they'll see Sucrose and they'll see her as, like, a constant reminder of them making the active decision to skip Kazuha. And now everyone and their grandmas seems to be recommending teams with Kazuha. So, and it just reinforces that they made a bad decision. Well, bad decision. This is why the get them all mentality is terrible. It is. It absolutely is terrible. Speaking of get them all, Tectone, if you guys know Tectone, I believe has skipped the last 2 5-star banners. There's something to talk about as well. Maybe the man has finally moved on. I think Genshin, I don't know. Some of these bigger content creators, Genshin is definitely doing more harm than good to their mental health. Hana is saying my mind is just Scaramouche for the last week. Aren't we all? Anyways, now that we've kind of settled down, we've set the tone for the day, we can now react to the video. So if you guys are here, I don't know if you guys have seen this video. I'll change scenes to the video right now. All right. So this video is made by Vars. I'm sure you guys know Vars, right? Like Vars. I reacted to this video last. I personally don't watch. I don't watch any content creator. I watch close to no content creators. It's just because I don't want to get influenced by a lot of people's takes before I have a chance to formulate my own. Okay. I very rarely watch, so it's not a personal thing against Vars. I just don't watch a lot of Genshin content. So today we're going to be reacting to the rise of exclusive support characters. Now, I've already made my video earlier today. I haven't watched this video, so let's see what Vars has to say, and we'll give our input when it comes to this. All right, let's see what this is all about. So yeah, if you guys haven't watched this video, you can go watch it. Make sure to like it, give it the engagement that it needs, because I always feel bad reacting to videos. Even though I don't have a large viewership, it's still taking some potential views away from the guy. Feels bad.
Now that we're entering year 3 of Genshin's timeline, the existing pool of characters has had a good amount of time to flesh itself out. Each element with the exception of Dendro has at least half a dozen characters, enough to where we can ascertain a specific role they and the represented element are supposed to fulfill. By this point, the majority of the player base has gathered enough empirical data on where characters stand relative to each other, and miHoYo has hopefully kept this information in mind when designing new releases. So far that seems to be the case. They've been quite conservative about making characters overly broken, seeing as the latest tier 0 unit was Yelan several months ago. Everyone else ends up somewhere between tier 1 to 3, which is where most characters should be. The first wave of units from version 1 like Bennett, Ganyu, Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Zhongli, Xiangling and whatnot were designed with a universal scope, not really catering towards a specific niche or win condition. If your goal was to boost attack, chain reactions, heal your party or whatnot, they would serve as blanket statement choices. Appropriately so, given that early on there weren't a whole lot of options. This would have the unintended consequence of them being extremely overpowered for how all-encompassing they were. Throughout most of version 2 and version 3, however, I noticed a pattern when it came to newer characters in relation to old ones, especially for supports. Characters are beginning to hone in on a target playstyle where they can only perform efficiently in that respect and not as much otherwise. So I wanted to make a video discussing what I call exclusive supports, characters whose entire identity caters towards a specific niche. It's something that was in the back of my mind ever since Xinhe, but now that more and more units behave like her, there's now a decent sample size to cover. Before we continue on with the video though, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Output. Output is a video capturing software on over description. It's a very simple but cool app that
Cool.
This the notion of early characters being all-purpose, while newer ones are more specialized. This occurs in almost all gacha titles, not just Genshin. Early on, the limited number of units make exploring teams, strategies, and whatnot somewhat restricted. Developers are usually aware of this and try to make their starting units applicable in as many situations as possible, or make the initial content rudimentary and leave the more multi-layered stuff for the future.
You see, I've talked about this in the past, and oh, louder? Okay, a moment. Louder, okay.
How efficiently
How's
characters
this?
perform has a lot to do with how much variety.
Okay, so sorry. We can go back a little bit. Let's go until here. So okay, let's watch it first and I'll talk
Occurs
about
in almost all gacha titles, not just Genshin. Early on, the limited number of units make exploring teams, strategies, and whatnot somewhat restricted. Developers are usually aware of this and try to make their starting units applicable in as many situations as possible, or make the initial content rudimentary and leave the more multi-layered stuff for the future. How efficiently characters perform has a lot to do with how much variety is demanded by the game mechanics and systems put in place. It takes a year.
So I said this in the past, but when games just start out, they of course want to draw in as many players as they can. One of the ways to do that is release incredible characters in the beginning. So when people pull these characters, it doesn't matter, especially the first few months, like people will continue to trickle in and then you'll have a huge drop off, right? But you want to capture as many people as you can. So the safest way to do this is to make a good overall characters, so it doesn't matter what the people pull. If they end up with like a top tier character like an SSR or a 5-star or a 6-star, there's a high chance that they landed a very good character that they can build their account around. And once you have a great foundation, and this is not just for video games, it's like for everything, you want a great foundation. So what EroticWalruss has done is, and a lot of other gacha games, like in the very beginning, they just let you win. They just let you win. It's like getting to a casino, you like just winning the jackpot multiple times in a row. If you're smart, you would have had your fun and you peace out. But if you continued and you stayed and you played longer and you keep thinking like, oh, you're winning, or pulling for 5-star, thinking they're just going to be as good as the last 5-star you got, that's when you're going to be in for a surprise, especially when it comes to Genshin, because they are not. A lot of them are not. So yeah, I think Vars is also pointing this out, like other gacha games do this too. Like in the beginning, these characters are amazing, but they don't stay that way.
Year or two before enough characters are made available for you to have multiple choices for things. So around the 2nd to 3rd year, depending on how fast the developers make new banners, is where most gachas find that sweet spot. Players have a wide range of options for teams, allowing them to theorize the most efficient ways to take on the game's content. As time progresses and the pool of available units grows in size, developers are faced with a choice. Obviously they want players to keep pulling for new units to make money, but that becomes increasingly more difficult since players eventually reach a point where they have enough to handle everything there is. So there's two options. Either make new characters just straight up more powerful or effective than whatever exists, famously known as power creep, or make new characters with a defined playstyle, something unique. Presently, Genshin is at that stage, releasing only 1 or 2 newcomers per version, but since the game's combat and content are more simplified than other established gachas, the scale of progression more or less evens out. My guess is that miHoYo never intended for units like Bennett or Xingqiu to be as versatile and all-purpose as they are, though it would be in poor taste to nerf them, as some players actively spend money on the game to acquire them. So instead, I believe they're trying to ensure new units wouldn't be as ridiculously overpowered, leading to rather mixed results. Some turned out okay like Shinhe and Goro, others not so much like Toma and Sayu. Supports were affected by this the most. For main DPSers, the main concern is just how much damage they can do and how easily that can be achieved. In a contest of strictly numbers, Ayaka reigns supreme over Ganyu, Hu Tao is stronger than Diluc, Shogun is better than Keqing. This isn't a statement of opinion, it's fact, they have better numbers. Thing is, supports are a bit more open-ended in this department. Their performance ultimately hinges on who they're supporting, what they provide, and who they're working with, which is where the category of exclusive supports came from. Exclusive supports, or ES units as I'll call them from here on out, are characters who are only practical for a certain team composition or for making the most use out of a certain mechanic. Given that this can be left up to interpretation, I consider any character an ES if most if not all of their abilities are clearly directed at something and not meant to be used by all. For example, a universal or general support would be Bennett. While he is a pyro character, Fantastic Voyage provides a massive attack buff and regeneration that is received well by virtually the entire cast. Another one would be Kazuha, whose elemental damage boost works with everyone who is in Eula. These units are rated very highly not only for their strength, but the number of situations they're suited for. A prime case of an ES unit would be Goro. He is completely worthless in any team composition except Geo, as his elemental skill requires at least 2 other Geo units to unlock his full potential. When the conditions are met, Goro is a vital asset to his team, providing arguably more buffs than even Bennett.
You see, this is where most content creators would like scratch their head at the community, because I guarantee you there will be people who says I play Goro in non-Geo teams and I love him. How are you going to respond to that? Like, how does somebody respond to that comment, right? Like, there's like, oh, I play Goro exclusively in physical teams. That's all I play my Goro in. You know, it's like, what my point with this is, why I'm pausing here and saying this is like, people sometimes don't play the game or these characters the way they're designed to be played. Like, yes, it's extremely bizarre and it doesn't really necessarily align with what we're talking about here. It's like, the reason why we don't see more people uprising and talking about this is because most people aren't even playing these characters the way they're designed to be played. Joey Chan, thank you so much for the 2. Thank you so much. That's a new name here, Joey. Joey Chan. Wait a minute. Joey Chan. I think I might know a Joey Chan. But yeah, thanks for the 2. But yeah, my point here is like, this is not as big of an issue and discussed amongst the community. Like, if you talk with the more meta side of the community, like, people will, you know, talk about this, but for the mass majority, people don't care. So it's like, it's extremely difficult to have this conversation with the vast majority of the community. Very difficult.
It's just a shame that it's attached to the worst element in the game. Goro stands out the most, but pretty much every half-decent support released after Kokomi bears some trace of exclusivity. Shinhe is an incredible character, highly underrated in my opinion, but that's likely due to how situational she is. Her elemental skill increases the strength of all forms of cryo damage, including other cryo units' skill and bursts based on Shinhe's attack, while her elemental burst increases cryo damage dealt and shreds cryo and physical resistance of all enemies caught within. So in layman's terms, she's only useful in cryocentric teams. Thankfully, Chain Freeze is one of the most heavily used comps in the game, so anyone who does have her runs her alongside Ayaka and or Ganyu for the same reason players run Goro with Ito or Noelle. The trend of ES characters has been getting more noticeable as of late. Kuki Shinobu, while not as conspicuous based on the text in her moveset, heavily suggests she was meant to be used for Dendro-based reactions. Her elemental skill is perfectly timed for Hyper Bloom, while her elemental burst works nicely for Aggravate. For her to be disappointingly overwhelming on release, and now a very strong character who happens to fit both Electro-based Dendro reactions can't be a mere coincidence. This reached a fever pitch when Nilo was brought to us not too long ago. She's a Hydro character who greatly boosts the potency of the reaction Bloom. Her first Ascension passive states your entire party must consist of Hydro and Dendro units and at least one of each, to which she then amplifies their elemental mastery and transforms Dendro cores into Battlefield cores, exploding right as soon as they spawn. Regarding Battlefield cores, the more HP you have on Nilo, the more damage you can deal with those cores thanks to her other Ascension passive. If it wasn't obvious, Nilo can only function at her best in Hydro Dendro teams, and no amount of copium will persuade otherwise. I don't care how many of you think Vaporized Nilo is viable, it's not.
You see, the fact he has to point that out speaks volumes to how many people are like commenting and trying to refute what he's claiming. And it's a scary amount of people. Like, I'm talking a scary amount of people who are trying to say Nilou, like Vape Nilou is a legitimate, strong, viable comp. Like, anything is strong, viable, but that's not the point of the discussion here now, is it? The point of discussion is we have a character, a limited character, 5-star at that, being released in almost an exclusivity for Hydro and Dendro. And this is like if your training wheels had training wheels on them. It's so tunneled and forced by HoYoverse that, remember when I said before that when you try to force people or tell people or even suggest to people how to do something, their first instinctive reaction is always to do the other thing. What was the first thing people tried to do when HoYoverse told you that Kokomi had negative 100% crit rate? This is not a trick question. What was the first thing people tried to do? Content creators, people are trying to get clicks. It was to try to build crit Kokomi. Okay, listen, it's hardwired into our system. So when a character like Nilou came out, that was heavily incentivized to play in Dendro Hydro teams. Of course, people were going to try their best to play her in non-Hydro Dendro teams. But I just think that became a little too magnified, right? People focused a little too hard on that. And now we have this belief that Nilou is, amazing in vape teams. Like, well, I'm not gonna say she is unplayable because that would just be dumb of me, right? She's playable. It's just like physical Goro is playable. It's just like, Pyro Shinhe is playable. It's just like Cryo Zhongli is playable. But these teams are not ideal. They take a lot of resources, a lot of effort to make work, and at best they are, partially functioning. They're good for some screenshots, they're good for some a quick highlight YouTube video or YouTube short or TikTok, whatever you want to do with it. But if you're trying to pull it off consistently over multiple patches and iteration, it gets very difficult. Very, very difficult. So back to the point, it's that the fact that Varus has to highlight the fact that Nilou is played in her peak most ideal form in Hydro Dendro exclusive Bloom teams speaks volumes to how difficult it is to actually engage this type of conversation within the community.
Sorry, something tells me 90% of all supports hereafter will be exclusive in some way, shape, or form. This is the only way they can maintain a stable and healthy power scaling. The last thing they want to do is make another Bennett or Xingqiu that would actually do more harm than good for players. With all that being said, while ES characters are definitely—
Wait, why? Why did he say that? Why did... Vars! He can't just say that and gloss it over like it's like... Wait, the man straight up just said they can't release more characters like Bennett and Xingqiu because that would do more harm than good for the players, and then he moved on to another point. you guys are lying if you don't tell if you say you don't at least have a little bit of curiosity as to why he's just said that. At least I want to hear his justification. I have my justification. I've said many times why HoYoverse cannot release more characters like Bennett and Shinchu. But what does Vars think? Maybe he'll talk about it in a bit here.
With all that being said, while ES characters are definitely the correct option for Genshin's current stage of its development, that comes with its own set of problems that miHoYo should keep an eye on. I'm gonna go through 2 positive things about them before talking about 2 potentially negative ones. The first pro, and it's the one I'm most hopeful for, is that ES units may allow for weaker or previously underperforming characters and/or parties to become stronger. One major difference between other gachas in Genshin is that it spends a lot of time on every character, whether top tier or bottom tier, 4-star or 5-star. Each unit since Klee has received a collected miscellany, a character demo, and reveal trailer, with 5 stars receiving a teaser on top of that. It's very apparent that more attention is given to each individual unit beyond their moveset and a few lines of flavor text. This can work for or against them. For powerful ones like Shogun, Ayaka, Hu Tao, and Kokomi, that only adds a more pressing reason for you to be attached to the character. The waifu and husbandoism is strong in this game. Naturally, players hope for their favorite characters to be strong so they don't feel bad using them. Amber and Shinyan mains, I salute you for staying loyal in spite of how garbage they are. No offense, of course. However, just like how miHoYo isn't too keen on buffing overpowered units, they don't really feel like buffing underpowered ones either. They made one exception for Zhongli after a substantial amount of public backlash from all over the world, but I doubt they're willing to do that again. That doesn't mean they won't try to find other ways to breathe new life into struggling cast members. Kokomi was considered by many to be one of the worst 5 stars in the game when she arrived in version 2.1 due to early perceptions of what constituted a strong character. But through more experimentation, discovery, the mainstream recognition of reaction-focused comps, and the growing need for units who could wear multiple hats, Kokomi was elevated to a point where her usefulness almost rivals that of Xingqiu, who was beyond a shadow of a doubt the most dominant Hydro character and a contender for one of the top 3 best units in the game. Technically, Kokomi is not an ES unit, nor was she indirectly buffed by them. She was always good, it just took a while for us to see it. But ES units can provide much needed help by offering benefits that are more in tune with what a character wants to do.
Well, the thing is, I want to talk about that point. Kokomi wasn't as good on her initial release, but over time, with her kit, like her artifacts and stuff being more fleshed out and more characters came into the game that could synergize, that she could synergize with, I think she warmed up to the players. Like, that's why we call it the Kokomi glow up, right? I think Kokomi was one of those characters where HoYoverse really nailed her developmental phase. Her initial release was, of course, met with skepticism, and also it was difficult to justify a lot of the times running her over other characters. But over time, with the artifact set, then, like, I mean, Chi-Chi also got a small glow up from that artifact, is that having them start to actually layer more damage, is that, because with the Spiral Blitz, it's all about damage. Like, if you don't have damage, you don't matter, right? Everything should be in service of more damage per second. And once Kokomi was able to service that on top of her insane heal, on top of her insane Hydro application, suddenly then she became a premier option in most, if not all, Hydro reliant teams. What an amazing Cinderella story for Kokomi there.
Yunjin was a welcome addition for Yoimiya, whose method of combat entails normal attacks, something the former is able to augment through Constellations 2 and 6. We already went over how Goro is probably the only reason mono Geo teams are even the slightest bit viable. Basically what I'm trying to say is, Xinyan and Razor mains keep juicing up on that good I promise you sometime in 2023 you'll get some Pogger's physical damage support character who will make you relevant again. Now the second pro is a simple but meaningful one. ES units can slow down the rate of power creep by staying in their lane. Every once in a while we get a jack of all trades, master of all that takes over everyone's parties, but otherwise ES units are very good at what they do without bleeding into other areas, thus promoting more character diversity. Generalists are meant to take care of every situation in a broad or superficial sense because you don't want them to render every other option irrelevant. Specialists can go deeper in their line of work and get more mileage out of it. Since they only affect a small group of characters and not everyone, that leaves the door open for more supports to be included for other groups, ultimately giving players a reason to try out more characters. There's nothing wrong with having all-purpose characters. Not everyone has the time or desire to investigate off-meta strategies, quote-unquote, and just want to autopilot through the game. So having your Bennett's, Kazuhas, Shinto's, Zhongli's are a necessary evil. Genshin founded itself on being easy to pick up and casual friendly. Sometimes you just want to turn your brain off. All the same, giving players the freedom to choose is what's important, and I'm glad miHoYo is creating more opportunities for party diversity. All of this is in concept, by the way. It's entirely possible for you to full clear every dungeon, domain, boss, or spiral abyss using the same 48 characters. I've expressed my frustrations with the lack of endgame content far too many times already. For those who are bored of using the same characters though, they now have other options to play with. That is, if they have access to those options in the first place, bringing us to the first and most glaring issue of this approach. ES units are paradoxical in a way. Their core purpose is to encourage you to try out different parties and strategies by retroactively buffing them in the hopes that they can at least compete with whatever's all the rage at the current moment. But in order to do so, you need all or most of the other pieces to make that happen, and that can alienate players who don't have them either because they don't want to spend money or were not playing during that time. Say you just acquired.
Okay, so this is the part where we're talking about the HoYoverse being monetary driven. I'm glad he covers this side of the discussion. Joey Wang with the 279. I'm surprised it's not 269. Joey Wang. Now that is
Joey
a name.
Wang just applied wet status. Damn, that's hot. Lol.
Now that is a name that I recognize, my friend. Welcome to the stream. I hope you enjoy your stay. But we're talking about how HoYoverse now making these exclusive characters allows them to basically. Okay, Brian Joe. Okay. Yeah, Joey, why aren't you a channel member, buddy? For the low cost of half a bubble tea, my guy. Low cost of half a bubble tea. Look, Brian is a channel member. Yeah, Joey Chan should join. Joey Wang should join. We got the Joey gang. But yeah, anyways, for HoYoverse, it's such a smarter move to tunnel more into these specialized characters, because the more specialized, the more unique, means the more of them you can make, means the more money you can end up copping in return. Like, it's a no-brainer. Think about it like this. You can only, like, once a character like Bennett comes out, how are you ever going to make another attack buffing unit? For example, let's say they make another character in the future that buffs attack. Okay, cool. For that new character to be relevant at all, they would have to do a better job than Bennett. Let's say this other character buffs attack and is a support DPS, right? So we're shifting them away from Bennett's category. Then they have to buff attack at least to the same degree of Bennett, and also deal sufficient support DPS damage for them to be relevant. Unless they or they have to be of an element that is specifically utilized by another meta team. So it's like, so we end up in this scenario where even if you try to make a more all-encompassing character that has a more overused or overutilized feature, you still have to make them somewhat niche and unique, because then they collide with another pre-existing character in Bennett. Now, the other solution is just to straight up power creep Bennett, but is that a direction they want to take? Then they essentially waste one character, and the newer players who come into the game, would they still get Bennett? Would Bennett still be promoted? Or would people say, oh, don't get Bennett, just wait for the rerun of Benito or something like that, right? Like, it's just a better version of Bennett. Hey! Joey Chan! There it is. Joey Chan. Joey Chan is in. Joey Wang, where are you at? Joey Wang! Welcome to the club, indeed. We got the two Joeys. Okay. Yeah, so that's why when we talk about exclusive supports, it's very difficult to get away from the discussion of it's just a smart business move. It's just a better way for them to monetize their characters going forward. This is a conversation we have to have whenever this discussion comes up.
Acquired Yunjin, and were lucky enough to get it to C6, but for whatever reason you don't have Ayato, Yoimiya, or Hu Tao, 3 5-star DPSers who enjoy the normal attack support. This makes her all but useless as she doesn't offer any other boosts. If we're splitting hairs, her support can be thought of as universal on anyone who uses normal attacks like Shogun, Razor and stuff, but you get the idea. The ones Yunjin works best with may not be accessible to everyone. Some may argue that's the point. ES units are intended to be situational, and I agree. Normally their conditionality alone wouldn't be much of a problem if they were freely available to everyone. If we were playing, say, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, excluding DLC fighters, having a secondary character for situational matchups is perfectly fine if not encouraged because you have access to the entire roster whenever you please. In a gacha title like Genshin, the only way to acquire new characters is by pulling for them, and no matter how lucky you are, no one can get every character through free emogems alone, I don't care who you are. This can adversely affect the player's experience.
Well, mathematically speaking, there should be some dude who has all the characters out there who never spent a single. Hey, if we want to talk math, I'm sure mathematically it's probable for someone to have C6 R5 every character. They just have to be insanely lucky. But, you know, we're... Listen, Beluga-chan is actually very close to having all the characters while being free to play. I think she spent, like, up until patch 1.4 or 1.3. So 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. I think she spent $20 and she had all the characters except one. And I think that's because she didn't want it. She skipped it. So I'm just saying, it's like, I know what he means though. I know what Varus is saying.
With the character. If they're a huge fan of Shinhe and love her design and gameplay but don't have Ayaka, Ganyu, or Eula to complete the other half of the equation, they'll be left with the sense of disappointment that they can't make the most out of her just because they weren't around during Ayaka, Ganyu, or Eula's banners. Or because, understandably, they don't have the wherewithal to spend however many hundreds of dollars per month on every character. And remember, players are heavily invested in Genshin's characters compared to other games. There's a lot more emphasis on playing a character because you have a personal attachment to them, not because they give you the best results. That doesn't mean players don't care about character strength though. For all of you Amber mains watching this, I bet you desperately wish she was just as strong as Hu Tao. ES units are perfectly fine in a vacuum, but the circumstances surrounding gacha games actively work against them, begging the question, how exclusive should they really be? For instance, going back to Nilou's Court of Dancing Petals, was it really necessary for her entire party to have to consist of Dendro and Hydro characters? Why couldn't they just say, if there's at least one Dendro unit in her party and leave it at that? It's not like she's this OP Super Saiyan meta-shattering unit that does billions of damage, and that segues nicely into the second problem. Given that obtaining all the specific pieces of the puzzle obligates you to invest a lot of time, resources, and most importantly money, for ES units to be desirable they have to be really easy to come across and are overtuned to compensate for not being all-purpose. The reason Banish, Xiangling, and Xingqiu make up the trinity of busted 4 stars is because aside from having really effective abilities, they're 4 stars, therefore being easy to max constellation, and there were multiple opportunities to get them for free. In contrast, to obtain someone like Nilou or Shinhe, you have to make a conscious decision to spend X amount of Primo Gems while having their corresponding Dendro and Cryo units to make actual use of their stuff. Even then, I'm not too sure about Nilou, but the only place where Shinhe outperforms other supports is in freeze comps, as she's the only one who can easily supplement Ayaka and Ganyu while boosting damage. Diona, Rosaria, and Chi-Chi are a bit less damage oriented. To their credit, many ES units are 4 stars, Goro, Yunjin, Shinobu, Candice, Sada, what have you, so if nothing else, they're accessible. And fortunately, a party can have up to 3 supports and 1 main DPS, so it's not like ES units have to directly compete with general supports for a slot. You can very easily fit Xingqiu and Shinhe into one party, or Yunjin and Bennett. In the future though, I can see this becoming more and more difficult as you get more characters that players want to use. Only time will tell. What do you guys think about exclusive supports? Do you enjoy the direction MiHoYo is going with them or not? Let me know in the comments down below. For now, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Consider following me on Twitter @VarsVerum, joining my Discord server, and if you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon page. By donating, you get access to benefits for all 3.
My goodness, this guy is plugging everything in the end of his video. I don't even tell you guys to support to subscribe anymore. And this guy's plugging his Twitter, his Discord, his Patreon. Like, oh my goodness, Vars. All right, guys, you guys heard him. Check out his Patreon, his Discord, his Twitter, his MySpace, his MSN Messenger, his like, hit him up on marketing jump scare. Your stream only has 39 likes. Yo, 38. Somebody retracted one. But yeah, I checked out his Spotify. Like, make sure to buy his new albums. I mean, good for him. Good for him. Good video overall. I think he covered most of the points very well. I think overall, I think exclusive supports is the best of both worlds. It's good for the players because you have more to play around with, especially for a game that's not so try hard and hardcore. And for Hoyoverse, they get more money. Yeah. Oh my god, is Joey Chan a member now? Yes, Joey Chan is a member now. Joey Wang, where are you at? Where are you at, my man? Where are you at? So, I think exclusive supports are good for both the players and for Hoyoverse. Yes, for the players, it does mean that you have to fork out more resources to complete these teams. But the good thing is you're not essentially forced to pull for them, right? Nobody is saying Goro is a necessity. But if you are an Ito enthusiast, you love Ito, I don't think you will find it too difficult to accept Goro as one of the vertical developmental options you have to spend towards to make sure your Ito functions at its best. Because I honestly think exclusive supports are just additional consolations for your 5 stars. So think of Ito having, instead of C6, he has C12 because you have to go through all the Goro constellations too. Does that make sense? Joey Wang is okay, saying that. Thank you, my man. Thank you. Thank you. I'll spend that bubble tea money to good use. There it is. Joey Wang. We got both Joeys. We got them both, chat. We got both of them. Welcome to the club. Welcome. The HV cases, I'm actually less likely to pull Ito because I have yet to even get a single Goro. Well, you see. Oh, Joss Valpena. Welcome to the Silver Tusk. We're just on a roll now, right? We're just on a roll. People are just rolling in. Maybe I should just push for channel members instead. Do we got any more people? My honor to witness a stream of such quality. Dude, it's just literally me watching someone else's video. But thank you. Thank you. Such quality. But promo success. Truly a success. The only problem is when the support's potential is locked behind cons like what's up. But they have to. They have to, Kai Pop. You see, here's the thing for Hoyoverse, right? Because Ito is such a limited character in the sense that he is a Geo hyper carry. The only way they're gonna make their money back, as opposed to someone like Hutao who can pair with like multiple different units, or someone like Ayaka, Ganyu, Raiden Shogun, right? They can pair with so many different units. So inherently, if you pull one of them, you essentially just hyper invest into those characters. But when a character like Ito comes out, he fits only in one specific team. Hoyoverse needs to find ways to get money out of the player base to meet their margins. I say margins, but we're talking about like $100 million or something crazy like that. But to make sure that they recoup or they meet their profit margins, I guess you can say, they need to incentivize you to spend elsewhere. And maybe when I say you, I don't necessarily mean you directly. I mean you as the general player base, right? If somebody loves playing Ito, they think Ito is the coolest character, they eventually have to go for C6 Goro, because if they think Ito is the best character and they're going to main Ito, they're going to make him the strongest he can possibly be. That's impossible without C6 Goro. That's just straight up not possible. You can't say you have invested the most you can into Ito without hyper investing into Goro. So by the metrics of the game that HoYoverse has designed, they have to go through this vertical progression. I see you guys. I see Brian and Joey has discovered the sus walrus emote. Yeah. So C6 Goro is an amazing addition to all Ito hyper carry teams. It's amazing. It's night and day. It truly is night and day. So I don't think I have a problem with 4-star, like, and also C6 Sara for Raiden hyper carry. C6 Sara is like the key to making Raiden hyper carry scale good enough to be played consistently. Now, some would say C0 Raiden with like without even Sara can already play in a hyper carry team. I beg to differ, because to me, a hyper carry team can only be justified when that hyper carry unit is just doing all the heavy lifting and is consistent enough comparatively with other hyper carry teams. I do not think C0 Raiden Shogun without Sara can compete with other hyper carry teams. I just don't think that's like you can be copium as you want. You can have someone blow like 100% raw copium straight into your rear hole and say your C0 Raiden Shogun is just as competent as other hyper carry units, but I strongly doubt it. I think you can get away with a C2 Raiden with no Sara, and she can be a hyper carry. But the most ideal form is going to be a C2 Raiden with a C6 Sara and a Nemo Viridescence with Bennett, right? It's the same with Ito. It's just like I think it's a smart business model for HoYoverse, and I don't have anything against it, because it's not like you have to spend money right now. You could choose to get Sara, Goro, these 4-stars on reruns, right? Sure, your character in the meantime is not going to be functioning at peak potential, but in a couple more reruns, you can even split it up into 3-4 reruns. And sometimes if you get lucky in between, you'll get one of their copies. And they sometimes appear in the shop events, sometimes will give some of these 4-stars away as well. Now, is that reliable? No, but it's like a slow build up. It's not like C2 Goro is useless. It's not like C4 Goro is useless. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, comparative to C6, they are mostly useless. Not that important to have. But like, what can you do? Like, as a free-to-play player, you can obtain this stuff for free. And if you are a dedicated Ito player, Ito main, Raiden hyper carry main, or like normal attack main, like Yoimiya main, slowly farming up your Yunjin, I don't think it's something that's too detriment. I don't think it's detrimental to your gaming experience or progression for you to have to wait multiple months to fully scale up your 4-star supports. And you'll do it willingly. And I think a lot of the times people end up using that as drive for them to log on to the game, farm primo gems, and then log out. Day in, day out, they're just like, okay, the next time Yunjin comes back, I can get C6 Yunjin. The next time Sara comes back, I'm going to get a C6 Sara. Like, my team will be complete. My Raiden hyper carry team will finally be complete. And I'm going to get a huge damage boost. And I think that, like, looking forward to that is what keeps a lot of these players continuously grinding. And these exclusive supports, like, they pay. I want to say they are so damn worth it when you get them to C6. Like, ever since I've gotten my Sara to C6, my Raiden hypercarry team has been so damn consistent, so damn strong in all iterations of the Abyss. Sure, Raiden is an important piece of the puzzle as well, but without that C6 Sara, it's just like, it's hard to say it wasn't worth it. Now, I think it took me, like, it took one Sara rerun. I don't believe I got Sara C6 on the first try because I didn't get Raiden C3 until her second rerun. So this is what I'm saying, right? For these characters, even like me, a spender, I didn't pull the trigger in the first banner. I also waited. I also wanted to see, like, is it really worth the hype? Is it really worthwhile? And I concluded, yeah, it was. And I invested, right? And to me, it was worth it because ever since I got C3 Raiden, C6 Sara, like, I've never had to stress at all for clearing content. It's just been smooth sailing, very consistent, and I think that's only possible because of the exclusive support system that Hoyoverse has started to implement in the game. So, let's see. Fuzzer Channel says, I'm building that team right now. Yeah, like building is like in the process of. It's very difficult in Genshin Impact for you to just come in and have a fully completed team with like complete vertical scaling without dropping like $1,000 straight up, right? Like if you want a certain team in Genshin, for the vast majority of us, it's a slow process. You first come in, do your research, see how they play, and be like, okay, I really like, for example, Ayaka teams. I really like Ayaka Freeze teams. Oh, she's not even available right now. What should I do? Then I gotta wait for Ayaka rerun, and after Ayaka comes back, I gotta get Shinhe. After I get Shinhe, I gotta get Kazuha, right? It's a slow build process. It's not like you come in today, you like Nahida, for example. Unlucky if you join this is the worst possible scenario, is if you just downloaded Genshin Impact today and you're doing some research and you see like Dendro Nahida teams are like just smashing it out of the park, and you're like, oh, that looks so cool, I love that. How do I get that team? Oh wait, what? She's not available right now. Oh shoot, when is she gonna be? Like, I honestly, the more I say this, the worse I feel, because if like, you know, there's people like that out there, right? You know, there's people like that out there. They come in, they love like what they see with a certain character, they can't get it, but that's just how the game is designed to be. Like, sure, you can, like, people call it FOMO, but like, this is not even FOMO. Like, they weren't even here to fall for the FOMO. They just mow. they don't even have the foe. They just have the mo. They just missed out. They don't even have the fear of. They just straight up missed out. And now they gotta wait. Yeah, they just straight mo. So, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of game this is, though. Like, then they have to wait. And it takes time. And I don't see many people actually, like, if we really think about it, very few people have the issue with, oh, I have to wait so long to like, oh, like, sure, we talk about like, oh, it would be nice if they rerun characters faster, because the faster we get these reruns, the less people have to wait. But then there's the opposite is true. If they come too fast, if they come too fast, like, you never have enough time to save. So the ideal way to do it is like, it's fast enough just to align with people saving, but then that makes it too convenient for you, right? Hoyoverse then makes it way too convenient. It's like, oh, we always rerun characters right as you've just saved up enough to get these characters. No. They need to make sure it's either just a little too long, so you have too much excess, and they make you stare at the primo gems every time you go into the summon screen and be like, hey, you can just use it all right now. You can just do 30 pulls right now and use up all the primo gems you save. It's a battle. What can I say? It truly is a battle. Like, it is a battle between self-control, discipline, resource responsibility. But I think exclusive supports does more good than harm. What it harms is you cannot avoid once in a while one of these characters comes out and they just completely doo-doo water. I'm talking just like a lukewarm coffee. I'm talking like tap water. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm talking 2% milk. I'm talking Pepsi, not Coke. I'm talking these budget ass versions of characters, or they live in the shadow of their potential. Like, you see a character like Kuki, you see a character like Dory, and you just think to yourself, like, God dang, why didn't they just give them a little more? Like Sino, yes, like Sino. Why couldn't they just give them a little more? It's unavoidable. Once in a while, you'll end up with these characters. But on the flip side is that once in a while, you'll also end up with an amazing support character that revolutionizes an entire element or team or 5-star for that case. Moonlight says, Walrus Discord. What's going on with Discord? Ready for tomorrow's Don't Mess Up the Time. Wait, what? The live stream's on Friday, no? Or for you guys, is already Thursday? Hold up. Is it Thursday or Friday? This is scary. Every time this time of the month comes around, it's a little worrisome. I see Genshin on Bilibili is still 5.7 out of 10. It's getting ripped to shreds over there. I think they posted it. I always check Bilibili because I don't trust the English one because they really screw with the time. It's Friday at 8 p.m. So same time. I believe it should be 8 p.m. China Standard Time to PST. I believe it's CST at 8 p.m. That is 4 a.m. for me. Okay, Friday, 4 a.m. in the morning. We have patch 3.3. I'm actually pretty excited for the card game because I speculate that they want to make this big. They want to make this card game legit. They want to sell like physical copies of this card game. They hope people would actually play it over the table. They're hoping Elon Musk would promote it alongside their next Tesla. Like Hoyoverse has big plans for this card game. That's what I think. It'll be 4 a.m. on Friday. Yeah, let's look forward to that. I don't think there's too much more I want to say today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, sticking around. Thank you to all the Joeys who subscribed. I mean, not just subscribed, but straight up became channel members, along with Brian. And there was one more. And Jospel Penna. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, we're going to end the stream there. They want the next Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. Will you buy the new Ayaka skin? That's a leak, isn't it? Because I have no idea. What Ayaka skin? What Ayaka skin? I had no idea there was going to be an Ayaka skin. But, okay. We'll see. 3.3. I want to make a video. Should I make a video speculating Scar? But the thing is, every time I speculate for these characters, if I end up getting it right, people call me, like, people just say, oh, you look at leaks. Every time I get it wrong, people say, oh, he's just pretending he doesn't look at leaks. It's like, it's a lose-lose for me regardless, but it's always fun guessing, even if I'm like the only one who has one. Like me and like the 10 other people who believes that I don't look at leaks. So I'll see. I think I will make a video tomorrow, and I want to talk about it. I at least want to talk about it. Okay, here's what I'm guessing, okay? Scaramouche, there's no way. I refuse to believe he is another Anemo support. I don't think so. I don't think so. So this leaves two options. He's either a support DPS, like a universal Anemo support DPS, right? Which could be good. Like imagine Anemo Yalan. No, think about it like this. Imagine Anemo Yalan, but like then you can't use Viridescence because Viridescence only works on field. So, and I think next patch we're getting a new artifact set, right? Because we've been needing one. If we get another artifact set next patch along with the new 5-star, so Scaramouche likely comes out with a new artifact set, and it would be such dumbassery for Hoyoverse to make him use Viridescence. So there is no way he is a support Viridescence user. I can say that with like 80% confidence. I don't think so. And they're releasing him with another Anemo character. So that Anemo character has a high chance to synergize with Scaramouche, because every time they've released same element characters, oftentimes these characters are supporting the characters that are coming with them. So just by looking at like how Hoyoverse has done things in the past, the pattern, very, very, very high chance he's an on-field Anemo character. Now, the thing I don't want to see is power creeping, because they've never really done it. So I really hope Scaramouche doesn't power creep Zhao, which means Scaramouche likely is a character that comes out with his own signature support, and I hope he doesn't power creep Zhao. So hopefully Scaramouche is going to deal similar damage to what Zhao is capable of, but in a different form or style. That's like the gist of how these things usually works out. Because if this is the thing, right? If they make Scaramouche a Viridescent support, then he directly competes with Kazuha, and there's just no point. This is no point. But like if Scaramouche is a main DPS and he gets his own signature support in Anemo, and if Zhao doesn't synergize with like Faruzan, then just sing the anthem, just like lower Zhao into his casket, you know, having Hu Tao dancing on top of his casket. Just let the man go, man. Like all his brothers and sisters have already passed on. It's his time. Let him pass. If Scaramouche power creeps Zhao with a dedicated Anemo support that Zhao can't use, I'm done here. I'm not done. Like I'm gonna have to sing. I'm gonna have to release like a mixtape or something. It's just so sad. So we'll see. Everything will be read on Friday. So likely I'll make a video tomorrow. And I really hope Scaramouche can coexist with Zhao. That's the best scenario, is that Scaramouche and Zhao are very similar in terms of damage, and Faruzan works with both of them. That's going to boost the Zhao sales, right? People are once again going to be super excited for Zhao, and Scaramouche is going to be super popular. Faruzan's going to be super popular, like another exclusive niche support comes out, and they all live happily ever after. That's going to be amazing. That would be amazing. So, we'll see. Okay? We'll see. yeah, that's gonna be it for this stream. I'll see you guys on Friday, and make sure to stay tuned for the video tomorrow. Okay. Comment your stuff then tomorrow. Okay. Till then, urge y'all to stay safe. Peace, peace. Bye. I'm gonna go catch more Pokemons. Pokemon Scarlet Superior version. Bye.